Day 312 of doing a LeetCode problem every day until I get a job. All right, y'all, we're back again another day, another LeetCode problem where we're doing daily LeetCode problems. And today we have question number 213, House Robber 2. The difficulty level is medium, but don't worry because we're going to keep the solution as simple and easy to understand as possible. But before we get started, y'all, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you need any new Apple AirPods, go ahead and check out that link in the description so you can get you some. Now let's see what the question says. You are given a professional robber. You are a professional robber planning to rob houses along the street. Each house has a certain amount of money stashed. All houses at this place are arranged in a circle. This means that the first house is the neighbor of the last house. Meanwhile, adjacent houses have a security system connected and it will automatically contact the police if two adjacent houses were broken into on the same night. Given an integer array nums representing the amount of money of each house, return the maximum amount of money you can rob tonight without alerting the police. All right, y'all. So sounds simple enough, but let's go ahead and take a look at these examples so that we can make sure we know exactly what it is that the question wants us to do. So in example 1, we have the input nums equals an array of integers 2, 3, and 2. The output is 3. Explanation says you cannot rob house 1, which has money of equals to 2, and then rob house 3, which has money equal to 2 because they are adjacent houses. So let's go through this. We have the array of integers. Each one of these integers represents the amount of money in each house, and each index represents a different house, right? So this will be, we could call this house 0. House 0 has $2, house 1 has $3, and house 2 has $2, right? But we're trying to see how many of these houses we can rob to make the most amount of money. However, we cannot rob houses that are next to each other, and this is more of as it's in a circle, right? So this house is next to this house. This count the first index and the last index count as adjacent houses, right? So we can't just rob this house, or we can't rob this house and then rob this house because they're next to each other, because we have to remember that this is in a circle. So the first index and the last index are next to each other, so we can't rob those two houses, even though they would give us 4, which would be the maximum amount of numbers. And so since we can't rob these two houses, we have to rob this house in the middle, which has $3 in it, and that will be the most amount of money we can make without alerting the police, right? So that's why the output is 3, because this is the only house that we can rob without robbing any adjacent houses. If we robbed any other houses, it'd be adjacent to each other. Like if we rob this house and this house, that's adjacent to each other. If we rob this house and this house, that's adjacent to each other. And if we rob this house and this house, that's adjacent to each other. And since we can only rob one house because of this, we have to go with the middle house, which has an output of, which has $3 in it, right? And that's the most we can make. So that's how we got the answer, or the output 3. Let's go ahead and look at example 2, where they have a little bit more houses that we could choose from. So it'll be a little bit more, hopefully it'll be easier to understand. So let's go and take a look at example 2. In example 2, we have the input nums equals an array of integers 1, 2, 3, and 1. The output is 4. Explanation says we could rob house 1, which has $1, and then rob house 3, which has $3, which a total amount of 1 plus 3 equals 4. So once again, we have to remember that the first index and the last index, those count as adjacent houses. So now that we know that, we have to figure out which houses can we rob that are not adjacent to each other in order to make the most amount of money. Now we see this house right here has $3, so we know we should take a look at this house because it has the most money in it. And after we take a look at this house, we need to look at all the other houses that we can potentially rob to add on to it that will make us even more money. So in this case, we could rob this house, which has $3 in it, and then we could rob this house, which has $1 in it, which will get us a total of $4. We can't rob this house or this house because they are adjacent to this house, and that'll alert the police. But we can rob this house because this house is not adjacent and it will not alert the police. And when we get these $3 plus this $1, that'll equal $4. And that's the most amount of money we possibly could make Only other combination would be this, which would be $5, but we know we can't do that because they're adjacent to each other. So we have to look for other options, and the most we'll be able to make is these two with $4. So let's go ahead and look at example 3. It's similar to example 1, really, where we can only get one house. So let's look at it. In example 3, we have the input nums equals an array of integers 1, 2, and 3. This time the output is 3 because since there's only 3 houses, we will only be able to rob one house without them being adjacent to each other. And this is the house that has the most money. So this is the house that we're going to choose to rob. And that's how we got the output of 3. So now that we understand the question, y'all, let's get into the fun part, the actual solution. As I'm sure y'all already know, the solution is not going to be that difficult at all. So let's get started with it. Now, the first thing we need to do is we could check to see if there's only one house, then we could just return that value because that means it's the only option. So in order to do that, we could just say if nums dot count is equal to, so equal sign 1, then we could just return nums square bracket 0, and that's going to get us the value or how much money is in the house. Now we need some variables to keep track of the amount of money that have been robbed, considering we're going to start, these variables are going to be start from index 1, but that's irrelevant right now, but just for your knowledge. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to declare a variable. We call that A. We can set that equal to 0. Then we could declare another variable called B and set that equal as well. And once again, these are going to keep track of the max money robbed so far. Boom. Now we need to loop through the houses, and we're going to start from index 1 to the last house. So we're going to exclude the first house just for reasons of, I'll show you as we continue on, but just because the first house and the last house are adjacent to each other. So first we're going to skip the first house, then we're going to skip the last house. But this is right here, this loop is going to exclude the first house. So in order to do that, we're going to say for I in 1 dot dot up to so dot dot less than sign nums dot count. We're going to open up the bracket. We're going to say let num equal num square bracket I. We're going to come underneath that. We're going to say let temp equal max not square bracket, open up the parentheses. We're going to say A, comma, B plus num. And this is going to help us decide whether to rob the current house or not. And it's going to return the max value of A or B plus num, whichever one is higher. Then we're going to come down here and we're going to move the previous max to B. So we're just going to say B equals A. Boom. Then we're going to store the new max in A. So we're going to say A equals temp. Just like that. And so at the end of this loop, A will contain the max money robbed when we ignore the first house. So now we're going to create some variables to keep track of the max money that we robbed when starting from index 0, so including the first house, but skipping the last house. So we're going to go up to the second to last house. So to do that, first we got to declare those variables. So we're going to declare a variable called that C, set that equal to 0, then declare another variable called D, set that equal to 0, and once again, these variables are going to keep track of the money robbed, skipping the last house or excluding the last house. So in order to do that, we need to loop through the houses from the first house all the way to the second to last house. So to do that, we say for I in 0 up to, or dot dot less than sign nums dot count minus 1. Boom. So that's going to exclude the last house. You notice here we start from 0, so that's going to include the first house. And you notice here we start from 1, which excludes the first house or skips the first house. And this goes up to nums that count, which includes the last house. And this goes up to nums that count minus 1, which excludes or skips the last house. Excuse me, y'all. Boom. So now we're going to come right here. We're going to say let num equal nums square bracket I, again, Then we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna come right here. We're gonna say let temp equal square bracket. Oh, excuse me. Whoa. Let temp equal max. Open up the parentheses C, comma D plus num. Boom. And this is gonna decide whether to rob the current house or not. That's what that's gonna help us decide. Then we're gonna move the previous max to D. So we're gonna say D equals C. Then once again, we're gonna store the new max in C. So we're gonna say C equals temp, just like that. Boom. Now at the end of this loop, C is gonna contain the max money robbed when we ignore the last house. Now, since the first and last houses are adjacent, we can't rob them both. So then the answer is going to be the maximum of the two computed scenarios. So in order to do that, we just come right here and we can say return max, open up the parentheses A, comma C. Boom, just like that, y'all. Now that should be all she wrote. Let's go ahead and run it. Make sure it runs properly. Let's see, and it's accepted first try. That's what I'm talking about. Let's go ahead and submit it. Let's see. Ooh, look at that, y'all. 0 milliseconds beats 100% of users with Swift. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I like to see. Those are some good numbers right there. So with that being said, get one more look at the code. Let's see. Add some comments to this. Excuse me. Get one more look at the code, y'all. We can say skips first house. And we could say, come right here, we could say skips second house. Oh, excuse me, skips last house. Boom. So yeah, y'all, this is the code. Get one more look at it. This is the top half. This is the bottom half, y'all. And with that being said, y'all, I hope y'all learned something today. And I hope to see y'all here tomorrow for another day, another LeetCode problem. See y'all then.